Now that we have some reviews being piped in, how do we get them to show up when we visit a single store? I'm going to click over to Randy's Joint here. I'm going to leave a quick review. Love this place. Give it a 5-star review. Submit the review, and it brings us right back to the specific review page. So no problem there. But how do I actually pull in a list of reviews in here? Well, reviews is its own data type, and stores are its own data type. So how do we sort of like have a relationship between the two? If we look at our review.js, we are saving the store here. But if we look at our store, we don't have anything to do with the reviews that are on the store schema. So this would be a bit of a pain because if we wanted to, in the review, save the store, but then under the store, save a list of actual reviews, then all of a sudden we're managing data in two places. We're managing the store and the review in the store, and those can get out of sync really quickly, not to mention how much of a pain it is to keep those up to date. So really what we want to do is when we visit a store page, we also want to do a second query, which is going to search for any reviews where the store is equal to the actual ID of this specific store. But we can even go one better, and this is a new thing in Mongoose, and it's called virtual populate. So let's close our review.js because we actually aren't going to need it. And right below the get tags list, right before we actually make our model here, we're going to add a new field to our schema called reviews. So say store schema.virtual, and the field is called reviews. And the options that we pass it's before it was a function where we immediately return something, but in this case, we're going to tell it to go off to another model, in this case, our review model, and actually do a quick query for us. So say the reference is going to be a review. Why? Because if we look at our review.js, the name of our model is capital R review. So that's why it is referenced to that model here. Then we say our local field and our foreign field are ID and store. So let's type this and I'll explain it because this was a bit trippy for me at first. So our local field is underscore ID, and our foreign field is going to be equal to store. Now, what does this mean? Well, our local field is which field on our store needs to match up with which field on our foreign model, which this just should say review field, right? Like which field on the review and which field on the store and what model to link, right? So what this essentially says is find reviews where the store's ID is equal to the review's store property. Maybe we'll say ID property, right? So if we open up our MongoDB Compass here and I look at our stores, we're saying find a review where the store's ID 58C0 is equal to a review's store property 58F. Those aren't the same, but if they were the same, then it would automatically populate that in the reviews field because they then line up. So this is sort of like a join if you've ever used SQL before, but it's nice virtual field so that we're actually not saving any sort of relationship between the two. It's just 100% virtual. So now if we actually go back to our store controller and we look at the method that was used to do this page, remember that was get store by slug. There we go. And we're already populating the author field. Now we can populate our new field, which is reviews. Give that a save. Now, here's a little funny thing that will trip a lot of people up. If we go to our store.pug and try to do a dump, store.pug, and we have some comments on Randy's Joint. If you're not sure if your actual store has some comments, make sure you say, love you. Make sure you add a comment to that actual store. Oh, it broke. What did I do? I broke it. Oh my goodness. Virtual is not a function. Do I know how to spell? I bet I don't. Back up and running. Leave her a comment. Give it a review. There we go. We've added another one. So now we got a couple of reviews for Randy's Joint. If we were to go to store.pug and we take a quick dump, pre equals h.dump, the store, and you'll see that we do have the author being populated, but where is our reviews? Didn't we populate it? And here, watch this, store.reviews. So now if I explicitly call the reviews property, something we don't see on it right here, there they are. So that's something about by default, virtual fields do not actually go into either an object or into JSON unless you explicitly ask it to, right? So what we want to do here is open up your store.js, and there are some options on your schema which will allow you to actually bring those to JSON to see it. It's not an issue for us because the data is there, but whenever you convert your actual model data into an object or into JSON, it will by default not put virtuals in that object or in that JSON. So if you do want to change that, you can go to your schema here, and we can go down here and pass an object, and we say anytime it is passed to JSON, you can say the virtuals is true. And you can do the same for to object and say virtual is true. And what that will do is anytime that a actual document is converted to either JSON or to an object, in this case, it's being converted to an object so we can dump it on the page, then it will actually bring the virtuals along for the ride. Even though they are there, they're sort of invisible in to JSON and to objects. So we give it a refresh, and there you go. See, all of a sudden the reviews field has been populated. It's not necessary to do that unless you actually are worried about it not showing up in your .dump to view it on the page. And I like to often see it on the page before I loop over each one. So good. Now we're getting all of the reviews. We can actually go back into our store.pug and start to loop over each of them. So we'll go down here below the if user, and we'll say if store.reviews. So if there are reviews, we're going to give ourselves a reviews div, and we'll say each review in store.reviews. We're going to have a review div, and then let's just try output like a paragraph tag with the review.text just to see if we can get it up and running. Then we'll make a little partial for that to handle it. So refresh that, scroll down. This place rocks. Love this place. Love this place so much. Good. So let's make a new mixin that we can make a review in it. So we'll go into our views, mixins, and we'll make a underscore review dot pug. Mixin is a review, and it takes in a review. And first we're going to have a review header, and we're going to have a review author. Below that, we'll have a review stars. We'll have a time tag with the class of review time. And then below the header, we'll have a review body, which is a paragraph tag with the review.text. So we're going to come back and fill these all in, but I'd like to just get the text showing up for now. So give that a save. Back to your store.pug. We need to import our mixin, and then go ahead and use it. So how do we use a mixin? Plus review, pass it the actual review itself. So the mixin's called review. Each of them is called review here. We could, if that confuses you that they're the same thing, you can just call it R. Each R in store.reviews, and then each review is called R. Doesn't confuse me though. I'm going to keep it. Now, there we go. Love this place. This place rocks. Love this place so much. We've got our 3 coming up. No problem there. So let's go back into the reviews and start to work our way through. So the first one is the review author. But if we look here, each review, the author is just a number, right? Like I guess we could say like paragraph equals review.author, and like just display the author's actual ID. That's who commented 58F, right? But that's not really what we want. We want to populate that data with an avatar and some data about the user. So what we're going to need to do is to go one step further and make sure that when the review is actually queried, it's going to auto-populate our actual author field for us because we need the information about that author. So we'll go back into our review.js, our model, and we're going to make a function called auto-populate. Function auto-populate. It takes a next. And we're going to say this dot populate author and call next. And what this will do is we can add hooks to whenever this review is queried. What we're going to do is automatically populate the author field so we don't have to explicitly go in and ask for the author field to be populated every single time. So we'll take our review schema and we're going to say pre-find. We're going to run auto-populate, and pre-find one, we're also going to populate. So what this will do is it will add hooks for any time somebody finds one, and it's going to populate the author field of each of those. So now if I give that a save and refresh this, you see that the author field, oh, wow, the author field just got updated to wesboss@gmail.com. So each of the reviews now has a subsequent author field, which has been populated with all the possible data that we need. So now we're dumping the entire value onto the field. That's not what we need. So we'll go back to our review.pug, and we'll swap out this review author with actually the markup that we need. So I need an image with the class of avatar. And the source attribute is going to be the review.author.gravatar, right? We're accessing a virtual property of a populated document. And then below that, we'll have a paragraph tag, which has the review.author.name. Let's see what that gives us. Good. We got 3 pictures of myself, 3 names that are now being populated. Then in the stars, what we're going to do is we're going to give that a title of rated. We'll take the reviews.rating out of 5 stars. Let's see what that gives us. It's not going to show us anything, but if we inspect it now, rated 5 out of 5 stars. Good. So that we're pulling that in. That's good for accessibility's sake. And then inside of that, we're going to have an equals, and I'm going to take, you might need to go find this online. This is a Unicode star, and I call repeat because it's a string. Review.rating, and that's going to tell us how many. So if I rated it 5, it's going to give us 5 stars. Beautiful. I rated this one 5 stars 3 times. Let me give me 2 stars. Meh. There we go. Meh. 2 stars. But then I also want to show the empty stars for the rest of them. So below it, I'm going to say equals. I'm going to give ourselves the empty star, and we'll call repeat 5 minus review.rating. So if I gave it 2, there's going to be 3 empty stars that get repeated. There we go. So 2 out of 5. That's a nice little way. And the reason why I had to do this title here is because it's not accessible to just show somebody a bunch of stars on the page and get them to figure it out. So you need to be able to allow those who use screen readers to read that. Finally, the review time. You always should have a date time equals review.created. What that will do is it'll give a timestamp to screen readers and Google bots and everything like that. That's how a time tag should be properly formatted. Inside of it, we're going to take our h.moment. If you've ever used moment.js, that's a library. And if you open up our helpers.js, you'll see that I've just put the entire moment.js library in our helpers so that I can use it. So we say h.moment, review.created, and then we can use a method called .fromNow. So what this will do is it will make a moment.js object, which allows us to call these handy little methods like from now, which should give us a kind of like a 14 minutes ago, 29 minutes ago, a minute ago. And then it'll give you months and years and all. It'll format it really, really nicely to you. So that's a cool use for passing libraries to your helper. Put them on your h helper variable, and you have access to them anywhere inside of your actual template. So this is our whole reviews that we've got up and running. I know that was quite a bit, so I would probably at this point take a quick review of everything that we did, specifically adding the auto-populate, as well as when we are in our store.js, we did the virtual fields that have a external document that hooks up to itself. In the next one, we are going to hook up this top page where we take an average of all the reviews and get us some advanced aggregation.